Can you hear me now, Shivani?
Yes, sir, you are audible. How are you, sir?
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, sir, then I'll start the session. Sir, I needed your permission, like we can record the session, right?
Yes,
You
please.
permit? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay. लहरों से डरकर नौका पार नहीं होती. Yes, sir, you were saying something.
Is Dr. Pandit coming? He said.
Yeah, yes, sir. In a while, I guess.
Okay. लहरों से डरकर नौका पार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती. How motivating these lines are, written by famous Indian poet Sohanlal Dwivedi, isn't it? A very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of team of Vortex 9.0, I, Shivani Singh, welcome you all to the second masterclass. I am going to be your host for the evening. Before we start, I request our audience to kindly set up the session by joining us on Pigeonhole. We'll be having a Q&A session at the last to solve all your queries. So for that, kindly visit the Pigeonhole URL in the chat box where you can post your questions or upvote questions from others so that we know what you wish to know and feel during the session. First of all, I would like to thank each one of you for joining us today. Vortex is the annual Tech Fest of ICT Mumbai, and I feel proud to say that Vortex has the legacy of being India's largest Chem Fest, and of course, the most awaited one for all ICTians. The fest is blend of quizzes, paper presentations, industry-defined problems, technical games, sci art, and other technical and soft skill enhancement events under its three major categories: pharma, prodigy, and general. And this year, we are back to amaze you all with the mind-blowing and eye-opening speakers for our flagship event Masterclass. किसी ने सही कहा है, संघर्ष करने वालों को जरूर मिलता है मेहनत का फल और समस्या का हल. I am profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce the dynamic speaker for the evening, none other than Mandar Apte sir, former executive director from India with Love and former manager, Game Changer Social Innovation Shell. In 2016, Sir started From India with Love initiative to reinvigate the message of non-violence, that is ahimsa, in the world. Until 2016, he worked for 17 years at Shell International. In his last role, he managed Shell's prestigious Game Changer social innovation program, investing the ideas that create shared value, business value, and social impact. Sir is an acclaimed expert on leadership, entrepreneurship, and social innovation. And Sir has spoken on these topics at very prestigious forums, including TEDx, Wharton Business School, Social Innovation Summits, Sustainable Brands, and London Business School, etc. He is also winner of prestigious Ashoka League of Intrapreneurs for designing and delivering an innovation learning program at Shell to over 2,000 colleagues using meditation practice. In 2019, Sir started the City for Peace initiative, a unique peace consultancy that works with civic leaders to promote peace and compassion in cities and communities worldwide. Sir has taught leadership programs using meditation practices for International Association for Human Values and the Art of Living Foundation for nearly 2 decades. Sir is also board member for Charter for Compassion, an international non-profit organization that promotes compassion globally. He was also a visiting scholar at George Mason School for conflict analysis and resolution, and the list goes on. Now I request our honorable speaker to address the gathering and cast the light of his knowledge upon us. Your comments are quintessential for students who want to be like you one day, sir. We would be delighted with your expertise and knowledge in every possible way. Before we start, I would like to remind our audience to kindly join us in the pigeonhole. The URL is in the chat box. And so without wasting any time, I would like to request Mr. Mandar Apte sir to kindly enlighten us with his words of true wisdom. All yours, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shivani. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, great. I really liked the few lines, the poem that you read. It also applies to people who are, in the world of entrepreneurship, people who want to chart their own journeys. So I am delighted to be back on the ICT in our days UDCT event, although online. But it's been 25 years since my graduation. I graduated with a bachelor's degree. And like most people in my class, we went for graduate studies in America. That was 25 years ago. I'm going to speak about how to bring a change from within an organization. And so that's the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. That intrapreneurs will use the entrepreneurial skills and approach to bring a change within an organization. You have already read this, so I'm not going to share anything more. It's been a pivot to where I am now. But it, if you look back, life prepares you to what you're doing every moment. And so every moment becomes very precious in that journey. When I was at UDCT, I never, ever imagined what I will be doing now. So be open to what life puts in front of you. And, that is how I have enjoyed and thrived. Think of it like whitewater rafting, right? You are going wherever the current takes you. So my mission and my belief has always been in this quote that it's better to find your own way, your own path, rather than following somebody else's shoes. And there is no right or wrong. It's just an approach that I have always chosen. You can take inspiration from people, but there is no need to become like me, become like you. You are you. And so this is a very profound moment in the history of the world today. We have just come out of the pandemic, almost, fingers crossed. And there is no program at ICT or Harvard Business School that says a certification program on how to uplift the world, right? So that is where leaders will need to find their own way. We will need to find our own way to figure out how do we come out of this pandemic. Whether you are a businessman or a politician or a student, we have all seen the turbulence of the last 2 years. And so we have to find our way in this unknown, the forest. Why should we do this? Because we are not just students at ICT, we have a much bigger role to play, right? We are not just studying chemistry and organic chemistry and whatever specialization you are doing and your PhD degree. But there is a whole world out there that is affecting you, and you can affect the world also. So these are the challenges that are in the world. COVID-19 has just gone by. Climate change has always been there, but now maybe even more profoundly understood. And then there are systems of racism and inequality and change that will affect you. So think of your identity not just as a ICT student. It's just a bedrock. It just prepares you. And that is where such experiences that this Vortex program is giving, make the best use of, this type of. So my talk is going to be a little bit about, things that we often ignore, right? When you get a job, when you go to work, people will ask you for performance. People will ask you for what results have you delivered. And if there is a gap there, people will look back and look at the process, we will do some post-it sessions, brainstorming sessions on how can we improve the process of delivering those results. But the blind spot is who is delivering those projects, who is the source, and that is often not discussed, not given attention to. At least when I was in the the college days in my life, as well as the corporate world, nobody looks at who are you. And the pandemic has given us this experience that we were locked in for almost 2 years. We had to face ourselves, no, maybe not literally like this woman is doing, but we had to be around people, and there was no escape. So think about, what did you learn from this pandemic? What has the pandemic taught you? And maybe that's a question that people might ask you in your interview when you graduate. So what are the new skills that you learned in the pandemic? How did you cope? So those are, questions that can take you deeper into our life and our existence, who we are, what is our purpose in life. And that is a discussion that I would like to have today, is how can we lead with more purpose? And so these are some definitions I pulled up from the internet. Purpose, if you think of it as a noun, it is why you do what you do, or why something exists. And purpose, if you think of it as a verb, then it is to do something intentionally, not by accident, right? So with a master plan, with some intended outcomes, expected outcomes. So that purpose gives a direction to our life. So that is something that I would like to share, how my journey, my purpose, my mission in life kept evolving. And as the Dalai Lama has said, this quote is very beautiful, that when you throw a pebble in the water, right, it creates these ripples. And so as we work on our purpose, our own unique mission, our own unique life journey, the actions that we do, people are watching, and people might have, taken something from your action that inspires them. So you will never know how many individuals or what individual you have inspired. So that's where purpose, if you are living your life with purpose, whatever that purpose may be, and you're giving your 100%, then sky is the limit. Yeah. So this is where purpose can take you. It can take you to infinity, right? Because you can always keep asking this question, what is the purpose of my life? Right? And don't wait for an answer for somebody else. The one who knows the answer will never tell you. Right? So it's an individual journey. We have to ask this question ourselves time and again. So I'm going to share a few insights from my life as part of Shell's innovation program called Game Changer. And whether you are in the non-profit world, governmental work, non-governmental work, or the for-profit world, innovation consists of these 4 blocks. The first is some structure. Like, you need to have a structure that allows you to play, that allows you to think, that allows you to do something different. Right? The second is a process. Like, okay, you might have a structure, but then there may be hundreds of ideas. So there needs to be a process to select certain ideas, right? There needs to be some kind of a framing that allows you to distill and filter the ideas that you want to work on, either for your individual life or for the life, the system or the organization you work in. The third is leadership support. So in ICT, Dr. Pandit support, right? If you want to do something different, you need the support of the leader. And this is not just allocating a budget, right? Sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. So even if you give small amount, if the passion and purpose is clear, you can make something happen with that small seed investment also. But most importantly, the item in the right side is, what you need is a radical thinker, but only radical thinker is not enough. right? Only somebody who thinks out of the box is not enough. That person, because they are sitting inside an organization, they also need to temper their own radical behavior, right? There needs to be some kind of a negotiation between what the organization allows and what you want to do, and that becomes a frictional space, right? That becomes a place for conflict resolution, I would say. Okay, so I'll take questions later. So let me just go on a roll. Otherwise, I will not be on time. So these are my 4 learnings from being in Shell's innovation program, that usually when you go in the corporate world, failure is often not tolerated, and innovation always comes with along with failure. Like if you are not failing, if you're not pivoting what you're doing, probably you're not innovating enough. The second learning is most people in the organization don't think they are part of the innovation culture. So if you ask somebody, hey, what's innovation and are you involved in innovation? People will usually point to the lab, right? The people with the white coat, like they are the ones who are supposed to do innovation, not me. So that is a sense of lack of empowerment, right? People don't feel that they are part of the innovation culture. Then the third learning is the senior leaders that you meet. My assessment is they have gone to those senior leadership levels, whether you are a vice president or an executive vice president. They have gone there with, no disruption, right? They have kept their boss happy. They have managed their project under time, under budget, and they have got a promotion. So most leaders, not all, most leaders across the world, I would say, have no idea about innovation fundamentals, right? Because they have never done anything that made somebody upset. And that leads to the fourth learning, is that innovation is not just a technical process. Yes, you need domain knowledge. Sometimes you don't even need domain knowledge, I think. But you definitely need mental and social skills. Yeah, you definitely need to learn how to manage your ego, manage your failures, build partnerships, right? All these things are not technical in nature. And that is what I thought. And I spoke to my boss. I was outside of Shell. I was leading meditation practice in my evenings and weekends. And I spoke to my boss about these 2 questions, like, okay, what blocks our creativity, right? And then how can I overcome the behaviors that are my blockers? What skill do I need to learn to overcome my blocker? So I designed a program at Shell a decade ago, 2012. And in the innovation process, we have these, few roles, like idea generation, like I said, is only one of the roles. You do need people to constructively criticize an idea, right? You need a cheerleader. You need somebody that says, Shivani, wonderful, I love it, go for it. And then you need somebody who is a networker. You need somebody who connects you with people, right? Finally, you do need somebody who will take a risk in you, right? Like what they do in the show Shark Tank, right? Somebody needs to put money on the table. They like you, they like your idea. And that is where this becomes a culture of innovation. So we created a program called Empower, and I facilitated and created that program. We taught about 2,000 people at Shell and created these communities of passion. Because once you overcome your blockers and invite people to bring their passion at work, miracles can happen. Because people by nature are passionate, but sometimes we keep that passion behind, dormant. We think, what will people think if I share my idea? Yeah, so that is what holds us back. So as you can see, this is a journal, very popular journal called Fast Company. Some of you may have subscribed to it. It's very nice. I got a publication at Fast Company. So that's where, I started looking at the role of the Indic philosophies of yoga, meditation practices not just for health and well-being, but as an application of that process or that technology to solve real world problems, right? So that is where my journey began as a Shell game changer. And I won this award, the Ashoka Award for Intra'preneurship. And I then came back and I made this 2x2 matrix, and I went and met my CEO. I went and met the Royal Dutch Shell CEO in Holland, and I presented to him this 2x2 matrix. So let me explain it. Every company, whether it's Shell or anybody else, will have a game changer unit. They will have a unit that looks at forward thinking, betting, innovation, incubation. But usually this mandate is around the engineering mandate, like, okay, technology mandate. So at Shell, of course, the mandate was energy technologies. That's what my job was. So there is another investment arm in many companies that is called corporate social responsibility. These investments are mostly social. And the value to the company is indirect. It's showing the world that we are a good brand, showing young hires that this is a good place to work. So these are all investments, but the value is indirect. The value to the brand is indirect. So this is the role I created for myself, influenced the CEO. And about a decade ago, exactly perhaps this week, is where I started a multi-million-dollar innovation fund that would solve social issues in the world and not make it philanthropic. There has to be a direct value for Shell.com. Yeah. So that is where my career pivoted again. And for 4 years, I managed this outfit. I'll give you some examples so that you can also start thinking about this type of innovation that companies can do. So these are African species of rats, chuhe, and they are on a leash. As you can see, they are on a leash. And one of the entrepreneurs was training these rats to sniff the landmine. So landmines, the rats are sniffing all the time. Using a banana, the rat was taught how to sniff a landmine. Okay, so this person had trained 300 rats. And the innovation is that the rat doesn't die, the rat doesn't blow up, because the landmine, it can go on over the landmine because it's lightweight, it doesn't burst. And it takes about 8 months to train one rat. They have an exam. They have to detect 10 out of 10 landmines. So they have to pass this exam. And then they get sent to the minefield. Yeah. So imagine if you are that person and I'm meeting you and you are telling me all this, and 300 rats, 8 months per rat. So it's a lot of effort. And so my question to you is, why are you doing this? What will be your answer? If some of you can unmute and tell me, I would love to hear. This was the question I asked to a social entrepreneur 10 years ago. Exactly same week, I would think. Question समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो Shivani, let me pick on you. Why are you doing this, Shivani? And then Yash, you can go after.
So this rat thing.
हाँ, क्यों कर रहे हो आप 300 रैट्स को? क्या कर रहे हो आप? दूसरा कुछ काम नहीं क्या लाइफ में? क्यों कर रहे हो आप ये? क्या जवाब होगा आपका? अरे जवाब दे दो, कुछ राइट और रॉन्ग नहीं है. Okay, we'll go to Yash. Yash, you raised your hand. Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, basically because what I feel is all those rats have one thing common in them, that is they have some of the other capabilities for them, but I don't think there was a proper trainer for them, or who can identify their strengths and thus.
हाँ, पर तुम ट्रेनर हो, तुम वो ट्रेनर हो और तुम ये रैट्स को सिखा रहे हो लैंड माइन कैसे क्लीन करना, तो मेरा क्वेश्चन है, तुम क्यों कर रहे हो ये? यस, निपुण।
To save human life.
Ah, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Shivani, you will try one more time. Why are you doing this? What?
Yes, sir. To save human life, to save the world.
To save the world, probably, right? So mostly,
Yes,
most people who have a life, who understand what life issues are, they will say this answer. But this man's answer was not that. This man answered, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Mandar, because I love rats." So I said, like, "What? You love rats? What do you mean?" So he said, when he was a child, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, he used to get depressed. And he used to go and pet the street rats. What street rats, अपने जो नीचे rats रहते हैं ना, उनको pet करता था, वो उनके दोस्त था वो. So he wanted to change the way people think about rats. He wanted to be the brand manager of rats. And this became an idea for him to show the world that rats have a value, a social value. Yeah. So imagine my excitement after meeting somebody like this. Amazing. My head spinned, blown away in my mind. I thought, like, ऐसे भी लोग होते हैं, wow यार, ऐसे भी लोग होते हैं. तो उसने मुझे बोला था कि रैट्स जो है वो 10 times they are faster in demining compared to human beings. Okay, so I went back to Shell. I got this award from Accenture. I was telling my manager, and he asked me, "Who did you meet?" I said, "I met this person. This is the story he told me." So now, immediately, as soon as I debriefed this story with him, we felt rats can add value to Shell, because at that time he asked me, "Can you guess how many people are employed at Shell on a payroll to clean landmines?" That number was 2,000 people. 2,000 people were employed by Shell company in Iraq, because the border of Kuwait and Iraq has mines, and they had discovered $1 billion gas field. And so the corporate responsibility team had made an agreement with the government of Iraq that ये 2,000 लोग आएंगे, they will clean the land. And once the land is cleaned, then we can produce your hydrocarbon asset, right? So that's where Mandar Apte, the game changer at Shell, looked at this 2x2 matrix. And so rats for Shell is a good idea. It will help save lives, but it will also bring the land faster. And that's NPV, that's direct value, right? You will get your project on stream faster. So that's an example of what I used to do. Look out for such investments to make and try that idea. I'll give you one more example of work that I did in Shell Bangalore. So these are truck stops. These are, truckers go there. India में धाबा बोलते हैं, धाबा. तो ये middle of nowhere में होता है, 2 cities के बीच में होता है, it's between 2 big cities. So was able to reimagine this truck stop by partnering with Apollo Hospitals. Apollo's business of providing primary healthcare. And then we looked at telemedicine. If we can bring telemedicine at the gas station, then local population doesn't have to go to the big city. The place for last mile delivery of health can be the Shell petrol station, right? So now the trucker is the most important customer. They are getting healthcare from a healthcare provider. Healthcare provider is getting a new line of customers like truck drivers and local populations. And the insurance company of the truck driver is actually paying for all this, right? So this is where it becomes a ecosystem project. It's a win-win project. And the person who helped me design this intervention was a lady at Shell whose husband was a truck driver. And she knew the challenges of her husband, that they are very, very stressed, they don't eat well, they have problems, health problems. So that is where you can unleash staff engagement, because the staff members also will start thinking about, am I just an administrative assistant at this company, or can I actually do something good in the world? Yeah, so that is where my role was, to do well while doing good. Right, so that's a little bit about my work. And then my work then went into all these sustainable development goals. So some of you may know about these goals charted by the UN, and all these goals need a business model. So my work allowed us to test business models. Can we solve some of these problems, make an impact on the world, and make money? In the interest of time, I will just wrap up in the next 5 minutes. What am I doing now? I'm focusing on sustainable development goal number 16. I left Shell in 2016 after about 18 years. I produced a documentary film. This film is available. I'm happy to share a link. I brought some victims from American school violence, where some of you may have heard there are school shootings. So I brought the parents of a school shooting. They had lost their children. I brought a former gang member, and we traveled across India for 10 days. And from the culture of India, my hypothesis was, can we promote healing? Like, can these people who have faced trauma, can they experience healing and love? And thereby, can we promote the beautiful culture of India? So that's where my life pivoted. I became a documentary filmmaker out of nowhere. And then I made one more interesting pivot in my life. I started looking at sustainable development goal number 16, which is peace and security. Often not taken on head on by business, because business thinks that peace and security is the job of the United Nations or the government sector or the non-governmental sector, right? So business doesn't say, I'm going to promote peace, I'm going to make peace profitable, I'm going to make money from peace. So that was my contribution, I would say, a niche area that I have created of how peace can be profitable. Just like there is a business for war, a business for drugs, a business for human trafficking, can peace be profitable also? And so that's the consultancy I run. If some of you want to volunteer your time, want to do something meaningful in life, I'm always looking for interesting interns, partners, thinkers. My work has been now in Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, Paris. I just got hired as a PeaceBuilder in the UN. So it's a little bit about me and some of my journeys in the innovation world. Thank you for your time. This is my social media handles if you want to add me on Twitter or LinkedIn, Instagram. And I'll open the floor. If you have any questions, I would love to answer and have a discussion.
Thank you, sir. Your speech was really inspiring, and I really liked the thought where you said that innovation comes with failure. So that is something which people really don't understand. In fact, in our daily life as a student also, like suppose if our research idea gets cancelled or they ask for a renew it. So that is something we assume it as a failure, and we go into like deep in thoughts like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And I am if made for research field or not. So that is something one should always take it in a positive manner, learn from it, and move on. Like that is what I really like about your speech. Like innovation comes with failure. So that was really nice, sir. And the floor is now open to questions from our amazing audience. I would request our technical head to share the screen to make the question visible to people in this room.
Is the screen visible to everyone?
Yeah, screen is visible.
Okay.
Okay.
Just give me a minute before I turn it into a full screen.
Yeah.
So shall I answer? Like, this is the question, and should I speak to it?
Yes, sir. So, sir, should I read each question for you?
No, just put it on the screen. I saw the previous
Okay, sir.
question that was highlighted, and then I can answer it if
Okay, sir.
if the people who are asking it want to.
So you can choose from the questions that you would like to answer, and I'll convert it into full screen.
No, just put the highest votes and go with that order. So I can answer any question, not just questions that are here, any other question anybody has. Which is one area that you would like to focus on, which you haven't been part of or tried? Yes, so currently that is what I am doing. I had 6 weeks of time out with Omicron. So I also thought about like, okay, itna kya hai, aage kya karu abhi main? So what I'm going to look for is thought partners, interns, whatever you may call them, to look at both peace and prosperity both. Only peace is not enough. Only prosperity is not enough. So can we showcase through examples and case studies and impact? Can we do both? So usually like this सबका हाथ सबका विश्वास सबका साथ ये जो है वो ठीक है बराबर है but unless the violent tendency is removed I don't think prosperity is the only way to reduce violence in the world. So I would like to move towards creating some academy or I don't know, think tank on peace and prosperity. Okay, next. What is the advantage of being an entrepreneur? So I think there is a big difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. The entrepreneur, you know, just you have an idea, you need a garage, you need a couch, you need $500, you need a friend who will help you, and you can create your proof of concept. But scale up is very difficult because that person has no funding, no background, no networks. So usually that journey is very difficult. Proof of concept is very easy because it's just a 1 or 2 people show. Intrapreneur is, on the other hand, exactly opposite. So in my case, I'm a chemical engineer, petroleum engineer, was designing pipelines in the Gulf of Mexico, all over the world, but I was not enjoying my life. I was a meditation teacher. I was teaching American Army soldiers, and that was giving me a kick of my life. Nobody valued it at work until I met my boss at Game Changer, right? And then when he started valuing it and asked me to bring my passion at work, I designed my Empower workshop. The first workshop was enough. That creates the story, that creates, you know, I traveled worldwide because Shell staff are everywhere. Funding is available. So I think that is where the entrepreneur's life is a little difficult because you cannot stick out your neck. I did, but I got chopped off, right? And then I did, and then I chopped off because my job at Shell was not teach meditation at work, right? My job was pipeline design, nothing to do with leadership development. So the advantage of being an entrepreneur is you can live your life fully. There is no Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, right? You can bring your passion, you can be natural, make a, yeah, Gunjan, good question. Next. People generally say innovation means thinking out of the box. So can you suggest some ways to do the same? There is no one way to do this, so you have to figure it out, but there are certain books that I can recommend. There are certain habits that I can recommend that help you to constantly work this muscle of thinking outside the box, right? It's a muscle, just like आप मेहनत करते हो ना जिम में जाके, ये think out of the box भी एक मसल ही है, एक quality ही है, वो आपको train करना है. So one book I recommend is called Ignore Everybody. That's the name of the book. If you Google search on it, there is a PDF version available. It's a fascinating book. Ignore Everybody. The second book is called Celebrating Silence, because intuition is very important for innovative thinking, right? We say silence is the mother of intuition, right? So you will find that meditation practice helps tremendously for not only thinking out of the box, but also when you're working on your dream, to build that inner resilience, inner capacity of taking on more. So if you are not yet into meditation practice, then I would encourage you to do it. I've never missed a single day for 2 decades. If I can do it, you can also do it. Next. What do you consider as the most prominent achievement so far in your journey? I don't think from that lens. I feel the most prominent achievement, if I ever want to call it that, will be to be of help to people. Like nowadays, I teach gang members in Los Angeles, communities that have suffered from violence, and being able to showcase to them that love and peace is possible. So people who have gone through very dark times in their life, I feel proud about that. I was able to be there for them, take the message of yoga meditation where nothing like this exists, right? We all have privilege. We can download a Headspace app, go Baba Ramdev yoga, whatever we can do, we do. But these communities and individuals don't have it. So that is where I feel I may have made a difference to their lives. Next. How can firms integrate sustainability efforts to create shared value? Well, my work already shows how they can do it. So I have quit my job at Shell 6 years ago. I am these days coming back from my peace rabbit hole that I went into. I'm coming back out of that rabbit hole, and I am doing workshops on purpose for corporations, for brands, to help them think about sustainability, not just climate change, because sustainability, the word has been hacked by climate change. Climate change, carbon emissions, like all this is sustainability, but there is much more. I feel unless you affect human life, all other sustainabilities are meaningless. Not meaningless, less meaning, sorry. Subtle difference. So firms can integrate sustainability and create shared value. There's a whole literature behind it. My work shows that this shared value is sometimes not obvious. And that's why you need a play area. You need an innovation incubator where ideas can be tested, whether there is shared value or not. Does that make sense? Right? Sometimes the shared value is not obvious. Next. Why should companies focus on sustainability and socially responsible business practices? I think it is because the generation that I'm speaking to now, your generation, will abandon companies that are not doing this. So they lose the client, they lose the marketplace, because your generation is much more purpose oriented. Your generation is much more socially conscious. So if your generation starts saying, kal se ye brand ko nahi karna hai humko, don't buy their products. And your generation is also on social media. So if that happens, these companies are at a loss. So that is why they should engage. They should do this, not only because it's a good thing to do, but if they don't, they will be out of business. Next. How is creating shared value different from corporate social? I explained it in my 2x2 matrix. It was CSR creates value, but you can bracket it as indirect value. There is no return on investment directly. Now, if you give this answer to the people whose job is CSR, they will not like it. Okay. They will not like it because they think they are adding value. Yes. So I don't mean to hurt people whose job is CSR. You are adding value, my dear, but share the box that I showed, the upper box is a higher value, right? So that is direct value. पैसा जा रहा है बट पैसा आ भी रहा है और सोशल इम्पैक्ट भी हो रहा है, ये सीएसआर नहीं बोल सकता है. तो मेरा यही कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ शेल में, और ये I have some learnings of what not to do because the CSR domain will resist. They will say, no, we add value to the company. So we should not go into any arguments with them. They are adding value. Great. Keep writing your reports. End of the year, you will write a great report. Next. What companies are creating shared value? They just Google for it, Ray. Anonymous, just Google. There is not on Google. How is the concept of share value relevant to business and society? अरे यार गीता बता दिया ना, अभी फिर से पूछ रहे हो. अर्जुन कौन है? Next. What are the misconceptions about being an intrapreneur? Yes, very good question, Gunjan. Very good question. The misconceptions can be multifold because the people that you currently work with, the team that you work with, they will never understand your passion and your idea, right? So that is where the first misconception will be, that I don't think Mandar has good teamwork, right? So now they will not like the idea that Mandar has, and that will get labeled as Mandar is not a team player. So that is a misconception. I suffered from it multiple years at Shell, and that what happens is you get a bad review at the end of the year. So that is where the misconceptions, you have to manage it. You know, not everybody needs to know what is your passion and mission in life, right? So you don't need to put neon lights on your purpose and mission and ga ga ga. सबको बताने की जरूरत नहीं है, जिसको बताना है उसको बताओ. Again, that comes back to social and mental skills, Gunjan. So that is where you need to learn some life skills which are not technical, on how to manage perceptions. It's a life skill. It's a mental and social skill. Next. Most satisfying thing about being a social entrepreneur. Yeah, so entrepreneur again can be of two types, right? Technical entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. Satisfying thing about doing both is I got paid to do great on the planet. Yeah. So if you aspire to be a social entrepreneur, good karma points. You will do good on the planet, get paid for it. What are the hardships faced by an entrepreneur? Some of them I have already spoken. In fact, when we turn around, I would like to ask you, what are the hardships that you heard me speak? And so why don't we do it reverse? That way, that can be a summary of the session also. Let's see if we get 5 such insights. Shivani, would that be a good idea to see, you know?
Yes, sir, definitely.
So question back to you. And
Yes, sir.
So you can share
Yes, sir.
everything in the screen, and let's do a debrief. People can unmute and answer this question based on what they heard.
Yes, sir. Sir, so the hardship of intrapreneur, I feel, is what I understood from your whole presentation is that how to make peace a profitable thing. Like that is one of the hardship I thought is.
Yeah, it's in a roundabout way. You said it that it's difficult to convince your brand
Yes, sir. Yes,
why
sir.
they should invest in peace. What is in it for Shell to invest in peace? That's not our job. That's the job of the United Nations, right? So that is where there could be a hardship you can face. I didn't face it. I still invested because of the mandate I had. But indeed, if you are working in any brand, that will be a challenge you will have to overcome. That what does my brand
sir.
have to do with peace? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else wants to unmute? Maybe the person who asked that question should unmute. What are the hardships faced by an entrepreneur? किसने पूछा है?
Sir, I think it's anonymous question. It was anonymous.
Okay. So whoever is available, you can answer. I remember Gunjan. Gunjan, if you want to unmute and answer, you were asking some good questions. Gunjan logged off. Okay. All right. I see three faces. Sachin Baviskar. Marathi बोलतोस का रे?
Oh, sir, Marathi आहे.
Okay. Sang mग तुला answer you want to answer? What are the hardships? You were listening to the talk.
Yeah, sir, but I don't think I have listened any hardship. I mean, you haven't included that in your talk.
Huh?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Repeat again.
I don't think you did include any hardship in your talk. I mean, as in faced by you.
Faced by me था यार, बहुत था. End of the year review में, what are you doing? That's one hardship. Communicating what you want to do is a hardship. I went and met the CEO. There were 3-4 layers before me. That is a hardship. How do you overcome these layers and go meet the big boss? Right. So there are many hardships in every role. Entrepreneur's role, like I said, you have to stick your neck out. Is the biggest hardship. You have to choose the timing of when you stick your neck out and who you stick your neck out to. And that's why you have to keep building allies. So even if you are a chemical engineer, you have to keep networking in your workplace and outside your workplace, because you don't know who will help you at what time, right? So that is another social and mental skill of networking that often students don't put time in. So I will just share that the last 20 months, I have a habit. If you like that habit, you can copy it. I add 5 people on LinkedIn every day. And I speak to one new person every day. And if I don't meet that new person through my LinkedIn outreach, I go and speak to the Belpuri wala. Right? So keep expanding your networks, lateral networks. Otherwise, petroleum engineers will only go to Society of Petroleum Engineers meetings, right? Chemical engineer will go to AI, whatever CE, whatever that meeting is, right? Usme ज़्यादा मजा नहीं है यार. Lateral networks. Yeah, so keep expanding your networks. If some of you are maybe looking for jobs, yes, soon or late. So think about this. If you build your networks and if 5 people are worried that, अरे यार, सचिन को जॉब नहीं है यार अभी तक. अगर 5 लोग तुमको मिल गए ना ऐसे जो तुम्हारे लिए सोच रहे हैं, तो सचिन बाविस्कर can have a beautiful good night sleep every day. Does that make sense? Yeah, you should be at ease because 5 other people are also concerned about your job. Yeah, that requires you to build relationships, not just hi, hello sir, how are you sir, but ask the question, what can I do? Right? Because that shows your intent. Yeah. So if this talk has inspired you, maybe some of you can reach out and say, sir, what can I do? and we will explore. That itself shows an intent that you want to do something different in your life. Yeah, and those skills matter more than 4.0 GPA, according to me. Yeah, make a difference to people around you. That's more important than getting 4.0 or 100 out of 100 in an exam, I think. Okay, great. If anybody has any other question, I will wait. Otherwise, it was a great experience for me. Shivani, you want to just ask for if anybody has any question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for answering all questions in an excellent manner. It was really indeed a very interactive session and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now I request the overall event head of Vortex 9.0, Vedanti Meshram, to kindly give her vote of thanks.
Hello, good evening, sir. So I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our speaker of today's masterclass, Mr. Mandar Apte, sir. Thanks a lot, sir, for giving us your time despite your busy schedule and enlightening us with, by sharing your life experiences. Thank you so much. Also, I would like to thank our VC, Professor A.B. Pandit, sir, for supporting us always. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Technological Association, the entire Student Council, and the whole core of Vortex 9.0 for their enormous support in organizing this event. Last but not least, a wholehearted thanks to all my dear friends, seniors, juniors, and others who have been patiently listening and been a fantastic audience throughout the session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Is Dr. Pandit here? Is Dr. Pandit online? Probably not. Okay. Great. Shall I take your leave, Shivani? Yeah.
Sir, I guess Shivani has lost connection. So thank you so much, sir, again.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
No problem. I'm going to put a link to something that you may have interest. I will put it in the chat box and then escape. Hold on. Where is my... So if some of you are interested in watching my documentary film that I was talking about, it was converted into a Udemy module. Some of you may be having a Udemy account. Oops. So I'll just put it in the chat box and then escape. Copy. Here. All right, great. Thank you. Nice to meet everybody. Enjoy your rest of the evening. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sir.